Doing double duty. He's breaking down the playoffs and World Series for us, as well as breaking down the upcoming national midterm elections. He's ABC News political analyst and baseball analyst for ABC News, ABC Radio. Good morning, Trey Hardin.
Good morning, McGraw. I will say one thing, if I might, that yes. Of the many reasons I've been proud of my buddy Mike Matheny over his whole career, but certainly over the last few years for filling the shoes of Tony La Russa and doing so well with the Cardinals. Probably have never been more proud than reading his statement yesterday that you just referenced.
Yeah, did you hear what I was saying earlier?
I did.
It is. I read that. Yeah, I heard it yesterday after the show. He released it, and then I went home and I read it and marinated in it and just sort of listened to it and read it again. It was such a pitch perfect. It was just you could see that he was hurting, and it was such an honest statement of a man who was brokenhearted. It just sort of symbolized and sort of verbalized what everybody else I was thinking.
Well, it's very much him, and it was very genuine. He's a very big family man himself, very spiritual person as well, and that he takes that to his job. So.
Yeah, and that's why. I don't care that somebody sitting on a couch eating bonbons thinks he should have pinch hit in the sixth inning for a weak hitting second baseman. I don't care. The guy cares more than I ever will about the team, and I'm just going to end up rooting for him and wish him well.
Yep, I agree.
All right, let's talk a little politics. We know that Republicans are measuring for the drapes in the Senate because they're going to take over. I mean, it's almost a foregone conclusion. I've often said over the last couple of weeks and months that if Republicans take over the Senate, we actually might see an end to this logjam. What do you think?
Well, I can tell you that I think we'll see an end to the president getting a pass from having to sign or veto legislation. What I mean by that is over the last 6 years, he's had it pretty easy if you think about it. He hasn't had to make a decision necessarily because important pieces of legislation or bills have not got to his desk because they've not gotten out of the Senate. I think that you will see that change because again, I'm not proposing here or suggesting that you're going to see hardcore right-wing legislation get through the Senate. That's not going to happen. But I think what you are going to see is that, especially after the fallout from this election, you're going to see some moderate Democrats in the Senate who now do not have to be beholden to Harry Reid anymore, probably side with some of these Republican bills that are going to be out there, whether it's repealing certain elements of Obamacare, tax reform, things like that. And therefore they're going to pass, and the 60-vote issue is not going to be an issue, and the president will have to be forced to make a decision on them. So I do think we're going to see more activity, and what the president decides to do on some of these, I think, is still up in the air.
Your note talks about infrastructure, minimum wage hike among some of the deals. That includes spending money, something Republicans got the flu over the last 6 years. Are they willing to sort of loosen the purse strings too?
Well, there's an interesting reversal on that too. I mean, the president may propose the minimum wage. He may make minimum wage an issue. He may make certain spending on infrastructure an issue. But you have to remember, when you do the houses in Congress, both the House and the Senate, you control what legislation moves. The president does not. The president can urge the Congress to do things, but the Congress is actually the ones that pass the laws, and then obviously the president ultimately signs or vetoes them. So he can talk about minimum wage all he wants. He can talk about infrastructure or some of his initiatives all he wants, but getting the Congress to actually pass those bills is a different question. What I think you'll see for sure is that the Republicans will move bills on tax reform, repealing certain elements of Obamacare. That certainly, the Obamacare element, is going to be a very interesting fight because obviously the president essentially overhauls or redoes or changes his legacy legislation, if you will. What will happen on immigration? There may be something that the Republicans try to throw out there, thinking about 2016 presidential elections, but the president can accept. That's a whole other question as well.
Okay, so when Clinton lost everything in that midterm election, there was a little-known political analyst at the time named Dick Morse, who went into Clinton and said, you need to triangulate. And he's, what does that mean? Take the best from both parties and them against each other for your benefit. If he loses the House, is there a possibility that he starts to triangulate and rides off in the sunset with the last 2 years of actually only talking about popular things from both sides?
I don't see it happening because I think that this is the most ideological president that has ever stepped foot in the White House. I think Bill Clinton is probably one of the most effective politicians or presidents we've had in the White House, regardless of whether you support his politics or his policies or not. When he won re-election in '96, he looked and said, listen, I don't have to run for re-election. I don't have to raise money necessarily. He invited Newt Gingrich and the Republicans down and said, what do we have to do to get a balanced budget done? What do we have to do to get welfare reform done? And they did it. And even though he obviously went through the Monica Lewinsky stuff and was tarred with that, if you look back at it, because of cutting those deals, I mean, he's really been known as one of the more effective presidents we've had at actually getting things done. And I just don't think that this president has it in his genes.
It only took a Republican almost 20 years to say that, though.
Well, I've been saying it all along. I was there on the Hill when Clinton was doing that. And I mean, he just, he was a deal maker, and he knew that he would ultimately get credit for getting those things done. And he did not approach it ideologically. It's something I don't think you can do as a president of the United States.
Trey Hardin, be safe. Have a good election day. I'm off. I'm headed down to Scottsdale to stuff the ballot box for my sister. She's running for re-election in Scottsdale City Council.
Oh, well, terrific.
I will not be here for election day, but we'll catch up in 2 weeks.
You got it. Good luck.
Thanks. Trey Hardin, ladies and gentlemen, on the Big 550 KTRS. Altair Travel.